break it down for me. I mean, so you know, with Peacemakers, you're working on the housing project they were kind of working on, and then there've been a couple of morphs and changes. Walk me through it, man.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So there's been a lot that's happened.
Yeah.
And over the last, I don't know when the last time I was on the podcast, but it's been a while. But since then, yeah, I came back during the pandemic, August of 2020. And piloted a program that we were doing on the educational arm of Peacemakers during that time. And then I was also starting back up the Housing Development Initiative.
That's right.
Which actually started back in 2015, roughly, where we started planning and trying to think through what we were going to do with housing through Peacemakers.
Long?
It's been it's been that long. So I had a hiatus basically where I went to go try to pastor a church in Nashville, Tennessee.
Right.
I say try to pastor. I was pastoring out there. In Franklin, Tennessee specifically. Williamson County, which
high
is
red district. I know exactly where that is.
It is a very high red district. The two words that kind of define it is rich and famous.
Yeah.
A lot of people there, even in the congregation that was in that status.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people actually ask me, why'd you transition back?
Yeah.
And that's an important actually note that I like to make, because I felt like I was compelled to do this work.
Sure.
Right.
Right.
And so in coming back, knowing what we were in before I left with the Housing Development Initiative, coming back, understanding that Peacemakers and the capacity that it's working on workforce development, education, and then housing development. That was a lot.
Right.
And so I was the deputy director of Peacemakers. I got to start in that role, overseeing our hometown hires program, housing, and then a couple of other things that are in there. Nonprofit life, what that is. Long story short, we got started back in last year, January, doing focus groups, also community luncheons, just getting a feel for the neighbors, what they want to do, what they want to see, vision inside of the neighborhood. That was amazing.
How many times did we skip that step? I mean, really. I mean, it's just. How many times did we really skip that step?
Yep.
We've defined we're going to serve you, and we're going to tell you how we're going to do it. But you know, sometimes you just need to step back and say, "Well, what is it you need?
Yeah.
What benefits you?
Yep.
What did you find?"
Yeah. Well, that's a great thing. I think paternalism, that type of kind of jumping in, is natural to us, especially if you're a fixer. But what we found is when we got onto the ground, the first thing we found is their vision, number one, which wasn't actually that complicated. It's like, let's get going. That was the first thing. Do something. So, and that's a real thing. So you do a quantitative analysis. You find on the qualitative analysis, as you're talking to your neighbors, they were less about wanting to actually meet at this point because they were tired of talk. Whoever was talking from before, they said, just do get going.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing we found, which is surprising. Well, I was thinking we're going to have these long, drawn-out meetings and be able to pick
contentious and my ideas and competing ideas.
It was everything opposite of that.
Done.
Yeah, it's like, let's get going. So that's what we did. We started a little Home Street project.
Okay.
And that is on Home Street in South Rocky Mount, the neighborhood we're focused on. It's, I argue, the most beautiful affordable rental inside of the neighborhood. You can look at that on our website.
Sure.
But we did the Home Street project. We started making partnerships with churches, local churches here, and then started our homeownership program.
Okay.
Because as we were doing an analysis of, we were starting out with housing, right? And there's this need for blight to get that taken care of. So you're looking at housing stock, trying to do the numbers, trying to figure out how many people are renting, who owns, all this type of stuff. Right. And so as we're doing all this strategic planning and thinking about, how do we actually fund this? How do we go forward with this? Well, the greatest asset to get that done was actually our neighbors.
Right.
Right? It's like, well, what if they can get a loan to actually purchase their homes? Right. That changes the game, right? I don't have to continue begging for money all the time because my neighbors can actually have that money to go and purchase their own.
Isn't that what you're trying to do, is put people into home ownership? So just start with the obvious, right?
Start with the obvious. And so it wasn't so obvious to start out, but now it is. Yeah.
Well, look, I was part of these discussions maybe 7 years ago, a little bit on the periphery, right?
Right.
And I don't remember anything as simplistically wise and deep as that coming up.
Right. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like the greatest asset, and I don't say that and using people as a commodity, but the greatest asset to what we're doing is our neighbors.
Right.
Bottom line. And so being able to start out that homeownership program, we did that by doing orientations, trying to invite our neighbors in. And while we were doing that, what we found was, there's a bigger problem. Now, we know the number is 40% or less of homeownership inside of our neighborhood. Who knows?
That's Rocky Mount. Roughly 65% of all homes are being rented in the city of Rocky Mount.
Right, exactly. And so with that average across the city, but specifically in our neighborhood too, we're able to say, okay, well, we know that we got to get this up.
Right.
That's the first step. All right, we want to get it up by this amount in this amount of time. That was our second step, our strategic plan. And then it's like, okay, let's go get some people to be a part of our homeownership program.
Right.
Well, when you get into that step, what you end up realizing is, there's a big barrier in the way. And that is our neighbors don't even believe that they can become homeowners.
Oh, wow.
Right?
So it's just the mindset.
It's a mindset. So I had that's what it is.
Okay.
And that's something you don't expect. You just think, hey, I can make, like you're talking about, we can fix it. We can make the systems and all that type of stuff. But when you're on the ground doing the work, you realize, there are people that are sitting there that really do not believe that they can actually become a homeowner. And so what we found is our favorite question is, hey, do you want to become a homeowner?
Okay.
And immediately from that question is, my credit, man, I don't know if I could do that. But we're talking about
But if I can make
neighbors,
all that go away,
right?
do you just fundamentally want it or not?
That's it.
How many people say no?
Gosh. The majority. I wish I could say. I wish I can give you numbers like stats.
No, that's all right. Well, ish. We're dealing with ish.
But the majority of people. And so it's staggering because the ones that are saying no are doing all the right things to say this. So one guy, I won't mention his name, works at a warehouse, been there for decades, making a decent wage.
So clearly he's employable. Clearly he's long, fast, steady, all the things, faithful.
That's it.
All the things you want.
That's it.
In the character of an individual.
Right.
They should be buying their house or just participating in our world.
That's it. And asked him that question, and I don't know. And so we had to find a way. How do we get past this? That's a huge barrier.
Well,
and so
I grew up in a world where literally whatever you want to do is possible. Now, we may not have the resources to write the check or whatever to make it happen for you, but there should be nothing that you shouldn't consider that you can do.
Right.
And that is, I've never really, till now, I'm embarrassed to say, I haven't really thought about that as an asset and a gift.
Yeah.
But, so just for small children, anything is possible.
Yeah.
So,
that was it. So I was in my professor's at his house, and I asked him, sitting around a fire.
Right.
I mean, beautiful setting.
Sure.
I said, Dr. Walker, is there ever a time where you thought you weren't going to become a homeowner? And he's like, no. I always thought I was like, there's no question.
Yeah.
And
I'm
so,
supposed to.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And so that's, if I can say, after all this work that we've done since the beginning of starting out the Housing Development Initiative, what I've come to realize is at the bottom of what we're doing is we want to make that a norm again.
Right.
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 We're trying to change what the norm is. So that question changes in our neighborhood where it's like, you want to become I was already going to do that.
Yeah. Right. This is my plan.
Right. So that's where.
All right. So now.
I got off track.
I got you off track. So I own that.
Yeah.
But so you started with do you even want to own a home or not?
Right.
I sidetracked you on that. Sorry.
Yeah. No, fine.
But now the question is, well, how do you do it? How do you first of all, open somebody's mind to the possibility that they can be.
Right.
And maybe even should consider it because it represents an opportunity to build some wealth.
Right.
To build some stability.
Yep.
And all the things that we think we can control in our lives.
Right.
And try to.
Yep.
But there are positive indicators in people's lives. So how do you get somebody from that thought process into that thought process? And now we got to talk about just beyond credit. How do you create that down payment? How do you create that structure? How do you build the education around, the things you have to do? Because it's not just buying the house. That's kind of the cheap part, right?
Right.
Now I got to cut the grass. I got to cut the roof. And every time the faucet leaks, I've got to do it myself or call somebody. And, So that's a transition in thought too.
Yeah, no, all that's really good. So back to the mentality, and then I'll make my way to answering that. So what we realize is, well, that's what we are in the neighborhood. We are salesmen, not really, but you get what I mean. We're pitching the idea that, hey, this is your first building block to building wealth, generational wealth.
Right.
And so how do we do that? Well, we have orientations every other week.
And it's nothing you're not doing every month anyway.
Right, exactly. That's it.
So you're already doing
We're already doing it. Right, that's it. So we're saying, okay, we're going to have orientation every other week. That was our first step, actually.
Okay.
Inviting our neighbors in. So we were able to so Peacemakers has tons of our neighbors inside of programs they have. So that's where we started at, right? Able to invite them to orientations and say, hey, listen, you want to become a homeowner? Let me tell you why you should become a homeowner.
Right.
And able to just have a time where we're pitching them to understand the reality of how this works, from appraisal values going up, right, to equity inside of a home and all that type things that are most of the time foreign to our neighbors that are thinking in the way that they can never become a homeowner. So we bring those things that are very juicy and appealing to their eyes, but then also just kind of letting them know, no, you can do this, and we're going to find a way how to do it with you. No matter if it takes us 12 months to 24 months.
Right.
And so what we've decided to do from that point is you said going from credit to down payment and all that type of stuff. We bring in our neighbors, and we're able to have them go through our application process, assess where their profile is, according to credit, debt to income ratio.
Right.
And then according to lenders' expertise, looking at their credit profile, how long would it take to get this stuff done?
You're basically doing the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, application process.
That's it. Except for we're not going to put all the qualification barriers in front of them.
Right.
I'm literally telling my neighbors, which this is very provocative, but we mean it. I don't care if you got a -1 credit score and $1 in the bank.
Right.
If you want to become a homeowner, we want to help you get there.
Well, I think that's beautiful.
And so that's the only way how you can attack the mentality, because that's like, wait, what are we doing to get? And we're not taking another route. We're taking the traditional route.
Sure.
Because we think that that's important to actually for them to teach their children.
Sure.
To pass that down to them so that they can do the same thing. So one of the greatest things that's happening right now is we have single moms and parents inside of our program that have their kids that's, childcare is not always there. I said, just come on and bring them to the workshops. Like, they can come if they want.
Well, actually, can I tell you how much I learned as a child sitting at the kitchen table with my mom and dad talking, and maybe an uncle coming by, or tons.
Yeah.
I learned more than that. I think I probably learned in the 12 years of the formal education I had, or 16 years.
Yeah, well, that says a lot about your formal education. No, I was just kidding. But yeah, no, I get it. That's true. I think with these, what I've seen, I'll just tell a story real quick. One of the students, one of the kids with his parents, single mom, brings him every single workshop, and it's not like torturous for him. He has games and stuff to play too that he can do. But what he's seeing is his mom striving to go towards home ownership. One day he's inside of one of Peacemakers programs, education programs. He's walking in the hallway, and he yells out to me down the hallway, "Hey, Mr. Manny," and that's my nickname. He said, "Mr. Manny, when's the next workshop?" Right? And I'm like, he's on it. So it's passing down. They're out there doing the renovation projects with them and stuff like that too. And so they're literally being a part of not only seeing their parents become homeowners, but they're a part of the rebuilding of a community as well, which is powerful. They'll never forget that growing up. And so we talk about building generational wealth. It's not merely getting the house. No. There's these other components that come to it, which
that's
you were talking about.
That's an important building block, though, because that establishes credit, establishes credibility with senior lenders, banks.
That's it.
Which allows other doors to open.
It does. So in our program, to answer your question, like even with what we're trying to do to get them there, so we have a matching system where we're helping them. So they're putting in that work to save money, to budget.
Right.
It's fascinating to see, people, our neighbors who spent decades not budgeting.
Right.
And so to find the things that they do with their money at times is hilarious. It's just funny. It's eye-opening, but it's also funny, and we have a good time with it. It's like, no. you don't skip on your utility bill to put money in savings.
No.
That's not how that works, right? But that's where we're at on the ground. Those are real things that we're facing. And so, they have a matching system that we have, and also the credit score that we're aiming for them to hit. And so we start out with those two goals.
Budgeting's all part of that. It's just that simple.
Yep, there's 4 components to the program that's there. So they get the homeownership classes, workshops.
Okay.
That's just teaching what it means to become a homeowner, financial literacy, and then we also work on home maintenance. As you're saying, they get in the house, they need to know how to repair and do all the things. And then we're working on a back end actually for like kind of an emergency fund planned to help them as they're coming in. But also we're hoping that the model that we're doing in renovations and being able to have them buy the house, they'll walk into the house with some equity.
Everybody has the opportunity for disposable income. It's a matter how you choose to spend your money and what you choose to be your lifestyle.
Yeah,
and there are choices. You know, my mother's favorite saying, and I heard it all my life, is, "Look, Sam, you got to sacrifice at some point in your life.
Yeah,
either sacrifice when you're young, and trying to build something, or you're going to sacrifice when you're older because you haven't saved anything."
Yeah.
And there's a lot of truth to that. And I love the fact that, you're bringing all that together and you're creating this beautiful thing for folks. So what we haven't done, we haven't bridged the gap here,
right? Go ahead. Sorry. I get excited talking about it.
No. I'm excited. I get excited about it too. But so this started out really as an initiative of Peacemakers trying to create a environment and a community that was mixed income. And that was part of the plan too.
Right.
Is to have just a blend of folks in a community to really build a community.
Right. That's it.
To support one or the other, to create opportunities within that community, which has kind of morphed now into a quasi-community development corporation.
Yeah. Yep. We're heading in that direction.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have to, right? That's the logical next step.
Yep.
So, and you talked a little bit about how you got there, but let's break that down a little bit further.
Yeah.
And then, what resources do you need to be successful? I know that in the past, Peacemakers was receiving some gifts of houses, some, some money, some whatever.
Yep.
It never really could quite get the momentum.
Right.
Just the beauty of, let's just start with where we're planted.
Right. Let's start with our neighbors. Yeah, that's it. It's beautiful. How we got here. So Housing Development Initiative starts. I come back. We get going again.
Right.
It was still going, but not with the same amount of speed because you didn't have a director over it. And so fast forward, we're doing all these things, the focus group, luncheons. We do our first project, and that's where the momentum starts just taking off. It's what the neighbors said. Do something.
Right.
Let us see something.
Right.
And that's when the phone calls start coming. Neighbors start believing because, we have somebody in that rental that's getting the house renovated for right now that they're going to purchase later. Okay. So they're talking to that neighbor. And, so word's starting to spread in the neighborhood.
Sure.
And so belief's there now.
Right.
And so that picks up, and then it's like outside community or nonprofit organizations, corporations, and things are starting to make introductions like, what's going on?
Right. Well,
So from that point, there were, we had started 2 other housing projects.
Okay.
And then in having a couple introductions to some corporations, it was already seeming for Peacemakers like, okay, we're focused on education. We got a school opening. We got after school programs. We got adult education. We got this workforce. This seems like it could get large, and also the blight is not limited to the neighborhood we're working in.
No, of course not.
And so for us to actually reach even further into Edgecombe County and areas where we see blight at too, that will reach outside of the scope of Peacemakers' work in general, which is
initial vision.
Yeah, initial vision. Yeah. And so, but the executive director Jesse there didn't want it to stop there. He's like, no, what we should do is launch our own house, not their own housing organization, but another housing organization that could just do this.
Just spin it off.
And spin it off.
Take this initiative.
And run with it. Yeah. And broaden the scale, broaden the scope.
Right.
And so that's kind of how Building Shalom came into existence.
So is there any current affiliation with Peacemakers, or is this just a standalone organization?
So, yeah, no, it is a standalone organization in partnership with Peacemakers.
There you go.
All right. And so Peacemakers actually is really helping Building Shalom in a lot of ways.
Sure.
Not only financially, but I thank God for Jesse Lewis, who's the executive director there. He's like a mentor to me, and so
Pete's on the other side of the sound booth. But I agree with you. So I'd love to see what his face was right now. But
right, yeah. Well, it's real though, because like people don't realize. So what we're doing in the homeownership program, it's interesting how this connects in that way.
Yeah,
we're working. So I purchased a home before, right? Like,
yes.
My wife and I actually have two homes, one in Meadowbrook, one in South Rocky Mount.
Right.
We plan to move in South Rocky Mount.
Okay.
But that process, I know, and so I'm able to pass it on to my neighbors, right?
Of course.
The same thing with running a nonprofit. So it's been a blessing to have, we launch off Building Shalom, and we talk about this partnership with Peacemakers. The one thing that a lot of people probably won't know is how often I can go in Jesse's office and say, hey, we need some help figuring this out. You've been at this for decades,
sure.
right?
Well, there's value in multitude of counsel, right? That's in the scripture.
It is. And so, we launched off. We're still in, to be a little bit more technical there, we're in partnership with Peacemakers. Okay. We have like official MOUs written out with them, and we're actually going to be partnering with their Hometown Hires program as well to use as a participant pipeline for our homeownership program.
That's fabulous.
So there's two separate tracks for our program, homeownership program. The first track is someone that's already kind of been in employment for at least a year. Okay. Steady employment, because we're going to keep them going in that second year. With lenders, typically 2-year employment's minimum. Right. And so those who are coming into the Hometown Hires program, we're going to link that up with the homeownership program so that they can have a pipeline from that 12 months, go through their courses of steps to success, and then they're able to come right into the homeownership program, but already know that they're kind of signed up to go in that direction to become homeowners while they're getting work in the workforce. So that's a partnership we have with Peacemakers there as well. But we are our own organization, standalone. We function out of their facility, though, and we're grateful for that.
Well, why wouldn't you? I mean, they've got a little bit of room, and you've got that launch pad. You've got that the resource of the people that are also there.
It's amazing. Yep.
So what needs do you have? I mean, in Building Shalom, what are your most pressing challenges right now in terms of fulfilling the mission? Now that you've just done something, now that you've started, right?
Right. The biggest need is actually, it goes back to being neighbors. So the first word inside of our name is building. Right. And actually taking that, it's connected to a concept where we want to be focused on building infrastructure and neighborly fidelity.
Okay.
That's huge for us. And in our home ownership program, we have 16 people in there right now.
Okay.
And what we want to have is a building coach for each one of those participants.
Okay.
And that's probably the greatest need right now.
So what's a building coach look like? What's that role?
What they're doing is they are providing housing counseling, financial counseling, and also life coaching.
A mentor.
It's a mentor. Yep. And so we provide training for them too. And so it's not like haphazard, just like telling them whatever. Our participants have homework assignments and all this type of stuff that they have to hit that goes in line with these housing, financial, and also life coaching, life planning, and stuff like that. So
what kind of time commitment is that for somebody? Because I'm trying to get you something you're not even talking about.
Yeah. No, this is great. So the time commitment is 36 hours a year.
Okay.
So what we're looking at is 3 hours a month.
Yeah.
And what that's going to look like is you're doing a one-on-one session with them where we already have it mapped out, questions you're going to ask and everything like that. Obviously, we don't have our building coach just going through the questions. But all that stuff is mapped out for the building coach. We do orientations for that as well. If you go into our website, people can just sign up to become a building coach.
Okay.
It's under the Build With Us tab.
But doing any kind of background check on those? Looking for different criteria? What are you looking for?
So that's a big thing. Yeah. So some sense of So right now we have like some real estate agents that are in there that have that background in real estate.
Sure.
Maybe you've had background inside of finance.
Sure.
That's huge for us. Or you've had some sort of life coaching experience.
Okay.
Or the other thing is we don't want to exclude anybody from this because the idea is we want to build our homeowner participants to actually become one of the building coaches in the future.
And who better?
So so if you have some experience, maybe you were a single mom that's gone through this process before, purchase a home. So that's another criteria that's there. But yeah, background checks and stuff like that, that's in place. But
well, just want to know because if we're trying to push the message and we're trying to get folks, we need to know what they look like. So anyway,
that's it.
So then we're going through this mentorship, this program. So what's that? A year commitment? 2 year commitment?
Yeah. So at least so we have 2 cohorts that go through that are in 12 months. One starts inside of January, the other starts in July.
Okay.
You could start on any one of those tracks, any one of those cohorts. But yeah, it's a 12-month commitment with walking through one of our homeowners. You'll be assigned a very specific person inside of the program for that year. And then if you want to continue with us, continue on that way.
We'll give you another person and so on and so forth.
Right.
And so 16 is what the current need is. You have how many?
So we have 8 right now.
So you need 8.
So we need 8. Yeah. So
or you're gonna have 8 people committing to 72 hours a year.
Yeah, that's it. Right. So that's been something that like I've been very cognizant of. We do not want to wear out anybody that's there. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's what we'll need.
What else do you need? So what's the other thing that's important to the success of building Shalom at your current juncture?
Yeah, so at the current juncture, we are going to continue to need skilled volunteers.
Okay.
So skilled labor is huge for us because it allows us to keep the cost down on renovations.
Right.
So just to give an example, First United Methodist Church, they have a group of guys that was able to build a deck for the Lucas project.
Right.
We purchased the material. They're able to cover that labor cost basically, right, by building that. So skilled labor type of volunteers, maybe the person's retired and has time on their hands.
Right.
We have so many jobs that like we can get help on.
Right.
Especially
so carpenters, plumbers, electricians,
that's it.
Roofers, grass cutters.
Yep.
I mean, anybody that has a skill to bring to the table that's willing to give it.
Yep, to do some work on some of our housing projects. The other thing is housing. So I won't shy away from that. It's like if people are able to, or you got extra resources where you're willing to donate property to us in that area or whatever area you have it in, that pushes forward the mission for us.
Right.
Because we're able to do things with a donated property that we won't be able to do with the acquired property, obviously.
Well, and even if it's another neighborhood you're not focused on, you can sell it, you can still generate capital out of that to propel the project.
Yep.
So, and look, there are many circumstances where I can give away something in lieu of paying taxes.
Right, exactly.
It's a way to call it your tax bill.
That's it. Yeah. And we are a 501c3, so we can get you a letter for that too, the tax write-off. So, those are the 3 main needs. I'm glad you asked me that. It's hard for me to think of needs all the time because like we're always going.
And it just seems so positive.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a damn the torpedoes guy.
Yeah.
We're full steam ahead. So but I want to break it down so the folks listening know how they can help participate. Love the project. Love what you guys are doing.
Right.
And I love the way you're evolving.
Yep.
And again, I just love being around you. So thank you for coming on the show, man.
I appreciate it.
Awesome.